today.
All right, you're recording.
And no photo bombs for my grandkids who are here.
No, I'm not. Are you talking about me photobombing?
No, my grandkids, I told them they can't photobomb me today. Video bomb me.
Why should this day be different than any other day?
Uh,
Or how about, hey, Jeremy, come in here for a second.
Now that I might do, though. Or I could bring my new puppy. We did get a new puppy.
Well, that's really good here.
Get
So let's start this. For everyone, we see all the attendees and we, I'm Steve Levy, and I think this guy's name is Dean DaCosta.
Wow, no echo.
Rhymes with pasta.
There you go.
All that other stuff. So this is the Sourcing Playhouse, where lots of fun and mirth and sourcing shenanigans take place, and we're going to be doing this every 2 weeks, so you can spread the word, you can spread the love, and we're going to be talking about anything that you want us to talk about. But it has to do with kind of sourcing and finding people and things of that nature. Couple of things here. I do want to welcome the group here. We have the Vu and Tu connection. That is Victoria Tu and Vu Tai from Hire Tool.
Is that like the Rock and Sock connection?
It is just like the Rock and Sock connection.
Mr.
Sorso. That's who it is, Mr. Sorso. Tiff, Terry, Susan, with Susan McTaggart, which we found out she has her great grandmother is a Levy. So, everybody in sourcing is related.
Is that like 5 degrees from Kevin Bacon? 5 degrees from
it is 5 degrees from Stephen Dean.
Oh, there we go.
And Tiara, how you doing? Another HT, Adam Bogan. So we're gonna just start taking information from from folks in the chat, and we're gonna let you all tell us what you want us to talk about, and we're gonna deep dive into those topics, and let's see where it goes. We're gonna make this a fun playhouse. So who wants to go first with their sourcing challenges? Who's going to type in right now?
This could be interesting.
I mean, I half expect, Carrie to be the first person.
Well, so while we're waiting, it was interesting. I was just helping some people with their sourcing challenges. And one of the questions they asked is, can you use area codes to find people location-based? And I go, you could, except it won't work. And they're like, well, why not? I go, let me ask you a question. What state are you? Do you have a cell phone? Yeah. What state did you get in? Text. I go, what's the area code? He said, and I go, okay, where do you live now? California. You still using the same number for your cell phone? He goes, yeah. I go, that's why it won't work.
Well, it'll work. You'll
work well.
You'll get the information. I have a 203 area code going back to 1996 from Connecticut, and I carry it with me wherever I go.
Right. But that's my point. If you're going to search by some area code and you want someone in New York, you're going to show up as Connecticut, not New York, because of your area code. The only way area codes really work anymore is if it's a landline. But do you realize how few people have landlines anymore?
Do you know on a true story, the reason we actually have a landline here because we have Leslie's mom is older.
Right.
Yeah. And so, that is, one reason. There's certainly reasons for doing it.
Yeah, I have a landline because my wife's grandmother was in Germany and she couldn't call into cell phones. She could only call into landlines. So we just decided not to bother getting rid of it because it's like not costing me anything. I mean, it's part of the bundle for the everything I get. But a lot of people, I'm forgetting where I saw it. I saw it somewhere, but they're estimating that they're estimating the percentage of people with landlines has gone down 10% every year for the last 4 years. They're estimating that less than 40% of the people have landlines anymore.
What's interesting, there's a website called spydialer.com. And it's one of the many sites that you can use. If a number comes in, you can find out who it belongs to. The one neat thing about Spy Dialer is you can also play the first 10 seconds of
Of their
the
message.
of their message. So that's often a really good way to see
Yeah.
if the person is there. And in
Yeah.
fact, I'm actually going to put it into the chat just
And
so people
actually,
can try it.
interestingly enough, Carrie, yeah, I have a Google Voice. Matter of fact, I'm glad you put it there. I have to remember to use it. I don't use it enough, so I have to use it once a month or they take it away.
Yep.
I have used a Google Voice account for other states at times, just so people think I'm a local caller rather than, and it's a cool trick, but it's still, yeah, it's,
Well, the nice thing about the numbers like the Google Voices is that they're often attached to people's social media accounts.
oh yeah,
And so that's one sourcing tidbit
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can use to triangulate where a person may or may not
yeah,
be.
because that number's got to be associated with their Gmail email address, and there is a tool that can do all that. But here's the problem: if you're someone like, I'm guessing Carrie does this and I do it, I have 7 Gmail accounts.
Yeah.
One of them is used for this kind of stuff, so go for it.
Mhm.
It's like, you get a tool and they say you must sign in with a Gmail. You know why they want you to do that is so they get access to your address book. So I have an account that has nothing but one person in it, me.
Yep.
And that's what I use, so people can't do that. And the same thing goes with the Google Voice. You almost have to have dummy accounts nowadays. It's next to impossible not to without getting.
Well, the primary reason I think for having a dummy account is to be able to go online to certain sites and
Yep.
not be deluged with promotional material.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's there's a reason why I have a feeling, and this is something I think is going to change in a couple of years, is the broadening of the different types of browsers that people use. We've discussed this. I mean, we use Bing and Google and DuckDuckGo and Opera and Tor and Showdown and
a whole
a
lot
whole
more.
whole litany of browsers. That's actually an interesting show that we may want to do in the future, is compare and contrast searching a basic search across a litany of 8 to 10 different browsers.
Actually, no, we could use one. We could use the 100 browser site and do the
100
search and then just pick which engine we want to see the results from.
Yeah, actually, but that's a good one.
I just added that to my tool, by the way.
The toolbox, yeah, that's
To the tool I created. Remember, I told you I got to
Yep.
show you that. I added
Yep.
that capability.
And that's another thing to for folks to do. It's I think the bulk of the recruiting profession has been distilled down to, arbitrarily pulling a number, 80% of the recruiters and sourcers using 95% of the same methods. And it's tantamount to sourcing, fishing for the same type of fish at the same pond with the same line, with the same pole, with the same bait at the same time of the day.
I would argue it's worse than that. It's not just same everything in the same pond. It's the same everything in one little section of the pond, because let's remember, using LinkedIn as our example, you can't see everybody in LinkedIn because they only limit your results to 1,000. So that means you're not looking in the whole pond. You only get to look in one little piece of the pond, and there's a whole bunch of fish out there you can't see because they won't allow it.
Yeah, and that's why. Hello, we have some new attendees again. Adam, pleased to see you. Mr. Hamill, how are you?
Oh, I didn't even notice, Mark. And Kay showed up.
KK is here.
Pam.
Where's
Wow.
Pam?
Pam Crouch.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
How cool.
Right above Susan and below Natalia. Or Natalie, excuse me.
You can't even pronounce the name right.
Dude.
I know I can't. Well, that's very interesting. So again, I want to go back to let's. I'm going to bring somebody in to talk. I hope she will allow us to do. I'm going to allow Carrie to talk.
Cool. Very nice.
So we're going to try some things out. So Carrie, I'm going to allow you to talk. I hope your microphone is on.
Nope. Now it is.
Carrie, are you there?
I'm here.
So
she's pictureless.
She's not. She's pictureless. Pictureless Carrie. Because that's something that we want to do here is bring in, ask folks who are really passionate about sourcing. I know in your case, you're at Appian. We've talked about some of the things you're doing there, and I have a feeling that the people who ultimately will start participating in this have similar experiences or needs or wishes. Or is there something, now that you're really helping to build out the sourcing function there, are there things that you're coming to realize about sourcing that you haven't really thought of before?
Oh my gosh, yes. So now I'm actually doing it, right? And I know that there are all these different functions now to sourcing. And I am in a great place right now in that I can help kind of define what that means with a couple of the other sourcers that are there for Appian. But I'm one person supporting an entire team. And I'm starting to now learn that I cannot do it all. And starting to kind of try to figure out where can I add the most value for that need at that time, and how can I figure it all out strategically, being one person. So that's kind of where I am right now with my role. I'm doing a sprint right now, which has been really, really fun and energizing. But there's so many different aspects to what I know this role can be that I haven't even touched yet.
So you brought upon something that's really interesting, and I don't know if we really talk about it enough. It's the concept of sprints in sourcing. Feel like giving a little more detail to the gang here as to what that means in your environment?
Yeah, so right now we have, like, every organization is going to have, I guess, greater headcount in different areas. So for me, it's software engineers, and I'm supporting one of the groups inside of my organization, and I'm literally going hard all day, 8 hours a day, whatever it ends up being, looking just for one particular profile and getting them into my sourcing workflow and campaigns, and literally just hitting the ground running every day and doing that only for 2 weeks.
Are there any, how did you come upon the development of the persona? Because I'm assuming that's, been part of the, of the foundation work.
Yeah, so a lot of the different groups kind of typically target the same full stack skills. So like the core skill stack, I guess you could say. So it's really fun in that I kind of have a lot of flexibility in that I'm going after strong software engineers with a certain level of experience, with a certain level of education, but they're all similar in terms of skills. So fully qualifying it for one particular role, not really, because there's so many. So really, it's more about finding great software engineers that are interested in what we're doing and getting them interested in wanting to talk to us.
Interesting. When you say finding great software engineers, how? Yeah, I know that. Is how do you determine that? Has the technical team? Have you worked with the technical team to define questions whose answers may give you an orientation as to whether they're really, really good, okay, and not really okay?
So I know where you're going with like having great questions to ask a hiring manager to help screen out the candidates and make sure you're targeting the right profile. But yes, in some certain circumstances I have, but for this one, it's what we call evergreen. So it's literally look for full stack Java engineers who check these boxes and work for a software or product company that, could really transition well, and just go. So that's what I'm doing.
Okie dokie. Is there anything that we can help you with?
I guess one of the questions I've always had is, and this is not like super exciting, like what creative sourcing tool can help me find this person. It's more about how do you manage your time? Obviously I block time off on my calendar to make sure I'm heads down, but there are lots of fun things that you can do. So like you can be on LinkedIn, you can be on Seekout, right? But then there's more of that deep sourcing stuff where you can do more of the X-ray searching and building lists and doing all like the stuff that takes way more time than you have in the day with high hiring needs. So I'm just curious, how do you make time in your day to do more than, and I don't mean to like be negative or anything, but not always be doing like the low hanging fruit, and that you do a little bit more of the deeper sourcing. Like, how do you make time for that?
Listeners, anybody want to answer that one? Show of hands. Anybody want to raise their hand and answer that one? Or should I just pick on somebody? Adam. Okay. Carrie, I'm going to let Adam talk now.
Okay.
Adam, the floor is yours.
All right. So, hey, Carrie, my name's Adam Bogren. I lead recruiting for Firestone Building Products. And for me, you say, how do you stay from not working on the low hanging fruit all the time? That's what I do work on. I go after that low hanging fruit so I can get it off my plate and then go tackle something else. I started my career in the agency world, and it's always go after the money. What hiring manager is going to get you feedback quickest, and go after those so you can get those recs filled. And that's kind of what I do from my sourcing and positions now is what position can I work on that I know I'm going to get relatively quick feedback that's going to help me keep moving. And then sometimes you just got to block it off on your calendar and shut everything down. That's tough because there's 1,000 things that come across all the time. And you just have to have that dedication to do it. But I personally like staying with that low hanging fruit, even though there are a lot of fun things and tricks to use. So I don't even know if that helps you or not. Sorry.
Let me just, Dean.
Yeah. So I can kind of understand a little bit where the Carrie's coming from. When I was at Microsoft, I had 4 different groups and over 100 recs I was managing. And the way I handled all that was purely like a project manager. I had MS Project. I had it all baked up. I had calendar. So what I would do is I'd have a plan. First thing I would do is look at all my positions and bucket them, the ones that are pretty much the same thing. And then I would say, okay, here's my plan. I've got 3 hours of sourcing set aside on Monday. I'm going to go in and find X number of potential candidates for this position. When I'm done, that's it. I'm done. Move on to the next, so on and so on and so forth. When that was done, if I had extra time, I might go back. But I always had on Friday, and I don't know why it was Friday. I think it was because most of my hiring managers were gone and they left me alone, is I always had what I called extra sourcing time set aside. And that's when I did the things that were not the simple, easy, quick stuff. That's when I'd start doing the x-ray, looking at conference lists and all that on Friday. Because like I said, I usually wasn't bothered. There was almost no meetings. And that's when I had the time to play, as I called it. And so that's how I managed it. But the key is it's easy. We always talk about going down the rabbit hole. I found this list of people that attended a conference and I'm going to keep going, blah, 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 blah. That's how you waste time and you don't get everything done you need by going down a rabbit hole. By setting a goal of, example, I have 10 Java positions. I'm going to source for 10 people for this time. And then I'm gonna move on to my big data position, 10, then this one, 10, this one, 10. But keep in mind, it's not just one day. That's every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every day, that was my plan till I hit all my positions. And Friday was when I used the time to do the extra stuff that's not the simple and easy. And the positions I would be doing it for would be the positions that I still feel I need more candidates for. Keep in mind, of course, you work at a company like Microsoft or somebody else, you have to deal with the people who apply, so you're going to get a percentage of people from them anyway, and those take very little time. But I put it on my calendar. I also put on my calendar time to reach out to these candidates and interview them and all that. So if you put it on your calendar and you have a specific plan in place, you can handle it. If you don't, if you just haphazard, I guarantee you're going to go down rabbit holes, and by the week's done, you're going to be like, good Lord, I had 100 positions. I've only sourced for 1.
Yeah, let me take that. Let me answer that. For the way I do it is, I have literally every day is blocked off from 8 to 10 for me, and I have also every other lunchtime blocked off, because sometimes I like to source and eat at the same time. It's a character flaw of mine. But what I do is I have a rotating schedule based on, for example. Again, let's take the diversity thing. I may have, for week 1, each day of the week, Monday, it could be African Americans. Tuesday, it could be Latino. Thursday, it could be LGBTA plus. Another one could be people with disabilities, neurodiversity. Another one could be Native Americans. And then I'll rotate them, it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then next week, the days which switch would be offset by another day. just so I just knew that for me working, so for every 5 weeks, I'd have each day of the week associated with a certain, type of category search. And within that, I'd split it based upon the actual positions. It could be, certain levels of engineers, certain levels of leaders. But it was consistent. And as Dean said, as Adam alluded to, is literally put it on your calendar. Color code the days if you need to. But, having a consistent schedule and, not pretty much not deviating from that unless you had, the lunch times for me are usually the special sourcing thing when I just seem to be more creative when I'm eating. I don't know why. So anybody, any raising hands? Let's see who raised a hand. Carrie, unmute. There you go.
Thank you. No, this is all great. And so I totally agree with Adam too, in that the low-hanging fruit is not necessarily the wrong thing to be doing, because I am still getting placements. I am still getting offers by doing that. So totally get that. I do want to not only do that, but also still make time for the list and all the things that you guys were just talking about. I do have I have on my Thursday morning, like this block open that's where I'm supposed to be doing all this creative stuff. And I'm not sticking by it. So it always gets dominated by meetings or something else. It's like a special project that my manager wants me to do or something like that. So I was just curious how you were all doing it. I'm really big with checklists and like making sure I'm checking every box that I want to do for every rec. So with the sprint that we were just talking about, I'm still working through creating Save Search results for targeted companies across the entire country, because we can recruit remote employees. So it's like there's so much that I have to cover before I even get to the fun stuff. So I was just curious. This is great.
Cool. Any other questions from folks here? Who should we allow to talk, Dean?
Let's get Pam on the phone.
Okay.
On the whatever we're calling this, the Zoom. It's like that movie with Tim Allen.
What is wrong with this? I'm trying to get. Did you get her? There she is.
She's on.
Okay. Pam.
Yes.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. So what's on your sourcing agenda today?
My sourcing agenda today is building out a sourcing team, and then two, sourcing for non-exempt roles in these small nook and cranny towns that are really hard to find people that exist in, because we have production manufacturing that we're looking for.
Now, for everyone in the audience who doesn't know who you are, with whom do you work for, and how can maybe some people get in touch
I work
with you?
for a company called Integris. They're 5,800 strong, and we do everything from material sciences to production. So your lovely cell phone that you stare at most of the time, we actually make the glass screens for those.
So you're the ones that this is broken? No, I'm joking. No. So what are some of your really challenging sourcing roles?
So I think the biggest challenge I see right now, and I will preface this with, I am just reached 30 days in. I actually worked with Dean at Lockheed Martin and jumped ship to take this role. So I'm creating a sourcing team as I speak as well. So if anybody's looking, please reach out to me. My shameless plug.
Hey, Pam.
Yes.
Do you have my personal email?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I do.
hold it, Dean. Stop. Anyone on this call?
You know what I'm about to say, don't you?
Absolutely.
Okay, go for it. Knock your socks off.
But still, you should not have to ask that question. You should say, Pam, email me.
Well, I like my way better. It's like, okay, so if you don't have an email and you can't find it, you need a new job.
No, I have your email.
Yeah,
I have it.
shoot me an email. I may have a couple people for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and only being 30 days in, with that being said, only being 30 days in, the biggest challenge I see is in with our material roles, our material manufacturing roles. And just where the locations, because they're in lovely places like Decatur, Texas. And if you're not familiar with Decatur, it's 30 minutes outside of Arlington, or Chaska, Minnesota, which is 45 minutes outside of Minneapolis.
Now, but Chaska, that is from a quality of life area. That is a high quality of life area.
That's good to know.
I thought it
But
was a soda. Shasta.
I want to put people on lovely shifts like second and third, and I want you to work 3 on, 4 off, and then 4 on, 3 off. So, we're 24/7 shop too.
So would you, Mikey, would you be looking for sourcers in those communities?
No, my sourcers can be remote. They can sit anywhere.
Okay. It still would, it might not be a bad idea, for the Minnesota areas is to get in touch with Paul DeBeddings.
I already did. I reached out to Paul. He was my first reach out. And then I got on a couple of the groups around there. It's really, for me, I think it's just not having dealt with a large non-exempt group for a long time. I'm a little rusty too. So I'm just reaching out to resources that I know to help and just retraining myself.
For me, when I've always had to do those shift, more blue collar, for lack of a better word, positions, there are times where it really does pay to, Carrie will get to you in a second. It really does pay to be on the ground, and some things like if you know where the Wawas are in the area, or the shopping centers in the area, and some of you have heard me at doing prezos on this, is literally those tear off sheets, like dog walkers, babysitters, material handlers. Those are the places where if you can get a tremendous amount of play from old school advertising. Exactly, Carrie. Churches, YMCA. It's fun to source at the YMCA.
I'm glad you said that, because I actually am going out there next week for a career fair, and I'm actually going out a couple days early to meet up with the Unemployment Commission and some people from the Chamber of Commerce and stuff as well. So,
but that's exactly what it is. So all the counties have chambers of commerces, and they all have, and many of these do have Facebook pages and other types of social pages. Yes, Natalie, definitely technical schools, of which there are many of them. Minnesota is a very technology literate state. You could look at the extensions from University of Minnesota, and even some of the smaller schools that are up a bit north of it. And she's right about flyers. If you have existing employees, you have T-shirts that you can wear in the community. We're hiring. We
actually just upped our employee referral program too. So anybody we hire right now, we're bringing them on. Our employees get $1,000 referral, but we're also doing $5,000 sign-on bonuses too for people that come in and start with us in these particular areas.
And that is absolutely fabulous. But any consumer marketplace, where
I love the idea about church.
But churches or folks from my side of the track, the synagogues and things like that, the mosques, they're all any house of worship. Yes, Terry, local grocery stores, whatever they are, that's it. And the other thing you can do is, you can do some co-branding thing. There's nothing wrong with identifying some of these coffee places, these quick stop things, and imprinting the coffee sleeves with information about working for you. And
that's a great idea.
And you give them away to delis. And so when people, every time they grab a cup of coffee, they're grabbing an advertisement to work for you.
That's a beautiful idea. I love that. I didn't think about that. We just did some radio and some newspaper. So I saw Carrie put radio. We just did newspaper and radio to see if we can drum up some more, because we're growing in this area. We're actually putting in another facility about 20 minutes from Chaska. And then we have another facility in Bloomington as well. It's probably one of my largest areas.
Yeah, those are fun things. Let's get some, Pam, let's get some other folks who have their hands raised. I'm going to bring in Natalie right now. So let me just, Natalie, you're up.
You're on candid
No.
camera.
Hold on.
She's mutated.
I know, I'm unmutating her. Trying to, at least. That's weird.
What's going on?
I don't know. I'm just trying.
Let me see if I can.
See, maybe you can. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We're not totally. Oh, asked to unmutate. Why do I have to ask to unmutate? I'm allowed. Okay, you're annoying me. Promote. Maybe I just promoted it. Okay, just promoted a panelist. Would be easiest.
Let's try that one. Let's see how that works.
Okay, I just promoted a panelist.
Natalie, you in?
No, she's now. Well, Adam is, but Natalie still needs to do it on her end though. She's gotta be willing to. Let me ask her to unmute it. Nope, I guess maybe she doesn't want to say anything.
Well, that's fine.
Maybe she changed her mind. No, let me undo it. Okay. So, well, now she's got her hand up again. So let's see if we can try this again. Promote to panelist. Natalie will be joining the webinar as a panelist. We know this. Thank you for sharing. Natalie. Now I don't see her here anymore.
Okay, so let's do something else here. Let's go bring on board. I want to promote. If we allow Kay to talk, she'll never stop talking. We know that one.
Yeah, but then we can go get coffee.
You know who I'm going to allow. I'm going to bring on. Let's bring on somebody, and I can say so much. Yes, you can. Well, how's this one? Let's ask the folks who are left. What other things would you like to know? Let me just change some of these people to attendees. I'm trying to limit things here a little bit now. Attendees, trying to get the interface working here a little bit more here. Well, let's bring on, let's bring on Kay for a second. Why? Because I think it's going to be fun. Kay,
Yes.
how are you?
You guys are my favorite brothers, I swear to God. I mean, I've known you guys for so long, but I just really enjoy growing my brain with you guys.
I don't
Just
think
when I think
I don't
just
think
when I
we've given
think
you
I
a whole
know
lot to grow with. What did we possibly tell you that you didn't know?
well, I think I just like the perspective of different things, but I was going to type this. One of the things that I'm curious about, and it could be open to everybody, and what's more irritating than anything in my world is this fucking reaction recruiting and how we talk about it so much, and yet we still fall into those habits. And even though we have different roles, different methods and stuff, the bottom line is this reactive recruiting, when then we lose all the strategy and all the goals that we talk about at conferences, at webinars and stuff. So I'm curious on your thoughts about reactive recruiting and how we can start making some changes, because I'm at a loss.
I mean, is there something that happened?
Well, okay.
There's a lot
okay,
that
so
happens.
Kay,
No.
before we go any further, because not everybody may be on the same sheet of music about the definition of what you're saying. Let's
Mhm.
define what you. So go ahead and define reactive recruiting first, so we're all on the same page here.
Well, I think it's that, there's different parts of our companies that are either scaling or growing, or, I have so much on my plate, and then we have to manage our desk. But we don't just manage our desk, we manage the candidates, we manage the hiring managers, we manage resources and stuff like that. But it seems that we tend to overpromise and underdeliver and put ourselves under a lot of stress, because when there's problems, we want to put process over process over process. And it's almost sort of like plugging the holes, and yet we're bleeding profusely. So it's like, instead of trying to plug the holes, because once you take your finger out of that hole, it's going to start bleeding again. So how do we approach it to where we can truly say work-life balance? We can truly say, we're not going to react to something that's a need before we put the strategy in place. And I don't think anybody has the answers, but I also think we talk about it, but the actions don't speak louder than,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Dean, let me jump into that one just
Sure.
real briefly. Whenever I'm talking to someone from a technical background, an engineer or tech leader, whatever, I go, I've been recruiting for 37 years now, and primarily in the technology space.
God, you're
And
old.
I know I'm old. And really a lot of interviews, and I've learned two things. Actually, I've learned a couple of things about technical people. Number one, technical people, we live our lives at the intersection of ADHD highway and Asperger's Boulevard, and which is both an intoxicating and maddening cocktail. But sources are very much, really, all of us are very similar, and I know everybody, every attendee here, we tend to get deep into the weeds, and we obsess over things. We're people pleasers. There's no equivocation when it comes to that, and that is very similar to to technical folks. So one of the things that wisdom gives you is, if you listen to it, is the ability to know when it's okay to not be perfect. There's this saying, I think Hugh Prater, who's one of my favorite writers, who wrote a great book called Notes on Love and Courage. Perfectionism is very slow death. And that is something I think everybody here can probably, hold on to in some way, shape, or form. And the real challenge to becoming really great in this profession is in fact knowing when to push back from that seductive lure of booleans and rabbit holes and Chrome extensions for finding email addresses and things of that nature, and just focusing on talking to other human beings and reveling in all the goodness that brings. And this sounds more like a fluffy TED talk, but
No. I mean, to me, I understand what you're saying. It's having that ability, and we're looked at as SMEs and stuff, but I'm talking about within our own recruiting function, not even our business partners, because I think our business partners feed off what we produce.
yeah.
And I do think there's it's how we talk to each other. As you know, I'm a big advocate about respect and stuff, but I think it's also like, when we don't have solutions, we just put a body there and expect them to perform. And then when they're not performing, instead of seeing the entire picture, they focus on the person who's not succeeding in their perspective.
Yeah.
And then we move on, and we're not even allowing to look at that whole entire picture. And it's just a common theme. And it's like, starts with our recruiting leaders and stuff, because I know we have to produce, but I think we're not approaching it wisely, even though there's a lot of talks out there, and God knows Glenn Cathy has talked about data after data after data, but it doesn't seem to change the behavior. And it drives me nuts, because I'm all about change. And I know we have to measure success and stuff, but are we measuring the right success, and if reacting the right way to go?
I think part of the problem is that a lot of people out there, and this is something that came up with somebody I know who runs an agency probably about 8-9 years ago, is that they see the data, that initial data, like as an example, football, they see how many touchdowns you scored, but they don't
Yeah.
look at the who, what, where, when, how, and why behind the data.
Right.
So, and here's the story, the example. He contacted me because he had 5 recruiters, and he was looking at bodies hired
Mhm.
as his metrics. And one person was only hiring 35 and everybody else was hiring 50. So he was going to let that person go. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Why? What are they hiring? Look at this. And I broke it down to him. By the time he was done, come to find out that all the people hiring 50 people plus were mainly hiring SDETs, low end developers. The person hiring 35 was all architects.
Mhm.
And if you looked beyond the number and then looked at how much money they were making, she was bringing in more money with her 35 than all the others with the 50.
Yeah.
And so that's the
but-
problem. The problem is
Yeah.
people,
And
you got to make them want to look at the data in itself is great. Okay, you got X touchdowns, but if they all
It's-
came from the 1 yard line, what does that really
well,
mean?
and I think that's the point, right? I think when people are put into management roles and stuff, they base what they are brought up on. But the thing is, they're not looking at the scale, they're not looking at the roles, they're not evaluating what it takes. I mean, what's the point of having a friggin' team if you're going to pit each other against each other? We're measurements. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody who's building a sourcing team, and all she was focusing on was the number of calls. And I'm like, but what are they doing? What else are they doing to grab talent and stuff? And I think we're so busy putting numbers. We're thinking at the end result when we're not thinking from the beginning and timing to get to those numbers. And I think our culture and our technology and stuff is we need to start thinking more holistically and stop focusing on old school metrics because it's not changing anything. And we're reacting in a way to where we try to like, oh, we're going to lose recruiters. And there is a shortage of recruiters and sourcers, you know what I mean? Because we're so busy at that number that the sourcers that we're supposed to be investing in and the recruiters, we're supposed to invest in people, not the friggin' numbers. Well, once we
Yeah,
invest in people, the success will come. And how do we measure success? And I'm so passionate about it. And you guys drive this, just so you know, you bring this out of me because you guys talk about it so great. But I think we need to start talking and educating and really supporting different ideas. Like Carrie's trying to
No,
build this.
it
Sometimes you have to fail to be succeed. You know what I mean?
It takes time. You're not going to make changes like this overnight. And I'm going to use the best example I could think of. And you guys, and everybody here should know this. Back in the day, there were recruiters. That's it. Then 20 years later, they said, wow, maybe we should have people just find people and call them sourcers. But it took 20 years.
researchers, they were called researchers.
Yeah, well,
thanks. That's my title, by the way. I am a principal researcher.
But now they act well, and I'm going to break everybody's bubble here. But now, 20 years more later, now they have researchers, but they're not doing what you do, Kay. They're doing finding the people can't find, scraping lists, finding the contact information, like what my son Jeremy does, like what I do. And so, but it takes time, and the reason it takes time is there are still too many old school thinkers in high positions that refuse to open their minds and broaden their horizons. And I'll say example where I'm working. I'm not going to mention where I'm working. I'm just where I'm working. Everybody can figure it out. We just had a huge reorg being facilitated by a outside organization coming in to do an analysis of us using old school methodology, and they basically tore apart what was working, and now we got something that probably I give it 2 years max before we go right back to where we were.
Well, and Dean, you say it takes time and stuff like that. And we've both I've been in it for 26 years, but I just wish we talk about it so much. How do we place the actions? How do we influence? Because like I have conversations with my leadership. I love and respect my leadership, but sometimes I don't understand how they come up with the answers or the methods, because all they want to do is put programs in place or process cause problems.
The answer, I mean, there's an answer to that one. There are historical metrics that have permeated into the realm of finance, metrics that describe, recruiting. Cost per hire, as it is probably the best example, which is probably one of the most nonsensical recruiting metrics, because it's historic. That is, it's always an apples to oranges comparison. couldn't care if you say you've reduced, you're crowing about how much you've reduced cost per hire. Your recruiting mix is different. The economy is different. The levels are different. Locations are different, et cetera. Going back roughly turn of the century, we started talking about recruiting efficiency ratio, which is a way to normalize, it's direct plus indirect cost of recruiting divided by compensation recruited. And you can do the same thing for sourcing, and you can do it. You can split it by level. You can split it by function. You can split it by location, business unit, however you want. And there you have a normalized way of determining it takes, X cents of a recruiting sourcing dollar to produce $1 of compensation. But HR, and this is SHRM, still hold the finance realm, they still hold to be truths, these historical metrics that don't allow us to determine how performance, an entity's performance. They're wholly disconnected. We don't push back enough. I think it's happening. The more you know, one of the things I think I'd like for us to do, in everyone is push forth the concepts of metrics that make sense, metrics for a new era. And let's see where that takes us.
I think if, we as people who are, I want to be careful how I say this, in positions to have some influence, put it that way, need to realize that we have to be more than just people who have influence, but be change agents. I mean, I'll give you an example. My where I work, they have a project. They don't come to me and say, here's the project, here's how you're going to do it. They just say, Dean, here's what we need. How can we do it? And I create a way to do it.
Yep.
And they listen, and any metrics created, I'm involved in creating. I always get a group involved because I don't believe any one person's created metrics, because 9 times out of 10 they don't know what the hell they're talking about anyway. And that includes me sometimes. We need to be change agents, because in the end, we're the ones that know, and we are people that have some level of influence. And that's what it's going to take. I mean, you get a newbie recruiter coming in who has ideas that could change, that could be great, but because they've been doing it less than a year, no one's going to listen to them. But if someone like us with 30 plus years that Steve and I each have been recruiting, they'll listen.
Yeah.
But by the same, I'm sorry, go okay.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is it's interesting. I when I was with at M&T Bank the last couple of years, I would get involved with the tech group down in Delaware, and they had this really neat thing called Geeks on Fleek. And where every Thursday, this is before the pandemic, they'd retreat at 4:30 and go to a bar and drink and just talk about topics, tech topics. And so I ran one of these meetings, because techies are my people. So I like posing a question to engineers during interviews. And it goes something like this. Just imagine you're at an airport, you're allowed to travel, and you're about ready to board an airplane for a really, really long transoceanic flight. When you suddenly realize, as you're about to get into the airplane, that it was your team that built the flight control software for the airplane, would you still get on the airplane? Now, the answer gets at what is the role of every individual on that team. And one of the things that, regardless of how many years that I have, that Dean has, that Kay has, that Adam, Pam, et cetera have, the most important thing that we can do going forward is listen to the Zen mind, the beginner's mind. And when they make a suggestion, just listen to it. I mean, that's the best thing that we can do for this profession going forward, is to listen to everyone's voice.
I don't think that happens though. And I totally agree. And I think sometimes change is hard because of what needs to be accomplished. But I also think that we can't compare 30 years ago to now because of how technology has brought us to where we are now. But I
Completely.
also think that not everybody needs to be in one position to get the results that we need. And I don't think strategically, and these are all cliche words because we talk about them so much. It's just that I think we have situations to where, we're supposed to be in like partnerships, and partnerships don't really are partnerships because of the mindset and the stress and everything. So it's just more the continuation of conversation, because I also think we hire people who are inexperienced and get intimidated, because even when you're working on an exec team like I do and stuff, sometimes the people who I'm partnering with are intimidated on pushing the hiring manager to make a better decision, or how we bring in ideas, because a lot of times they're poo-pooed away. And we need to be more confident in what we do in order to make that change.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate the conversation, guys, because I think that's where we should start working on, because not everybody has the one idea of a perfect idea of managing your desk or hiring talent, and candidates are actually controlling the space. So, I mean, it just baffles me. And I do appreciate your guys' input.
On that note, let's kind of wind up here. What my ask of everyone here is, we're going to do this again in 2 weeks, and we were just playing this one by ear, so that Dean and Steve sourcing Playhouse. We'll talk about the science and psychology of sourcing for the future. So please bring on board, in 2 weeks from today, bring someone who you work with. Carrie, bring your boss before I talk to her. Okay. Pam, bring a new hire. Adam, bring some people on board. The hire tool team, bring some more, bring some of the team by. Terry, same thing. Tiff, I think did Sue leave already? Yeah, she's left already. But send us your questions, send us the topics. We want to make this more of a collaborative environment, where your voice, this is the place where I guarantee your voice is going to be heard.
And keep in mind, guys, it doesn't have to be quite so esoteric as that. It could be just real simple. Dean, Steve, how can I find Hadoop developer or Hadoop architect? Whatever it is, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys vent, help you guys solve problems, help you guys come up with ideas. This is like a great big ideation session.
That's what it is. And the good thing about it is, I have a feeling that the more people who participate, the more people who we give a voice to, some of you are going to be speakers. I mean, down the line, everyone, we have a big plan for 2022. And we want you to be part of that plan. So It's up to you. So I guess on that note,
we out.
Dean and Steve Sourcing's Playhouse. Have a good week. We out.
Later.
Bye.